we are going to call Kwirigaran, our special guest overseas from Canada. So Kwiri, you are welcome and have this moment with us.
How are you? I didn't expect to speak so soon, so I was caught off guard. But I'll try to. Yeah, Kwiri is going to do a book reading, so and I think we're waiting for a few people. So please let her be patient. Sorry to interfere with you. We are waiting for a couple of people. Master of ceremony, come on.
For that hiccup, a lot of people in the list here have not turned up, and it's we pondered upon that and we did not know what to do. At this time, we would like to call Santino Deng to come and have this time with us.
Hello. I acknowledge your presence all, Honorable, and all the distinguished guests for coming this wonderful day. First of all, I would like to thank Peter and Elizabeth for these wonderful ideas. When I met Peter for the first time, I didn't ask for the whole stories about what he was doing. I just said that's really a good idea because, as it has been said by the previous speakers, we have a problem where we are very eloquent when we are talking, but we don't put it in writing. And this is our challenge because, if you don't write it down, one of my previous supervisors told me that if you say something and somebody else write it down and you didn't write it down yourself, it belonged to that person who would take it and go and publish it. But if you documented it, it becomes yours. You are copyright. You have a copyright right on that. As you heard, my name is Santino Temding. Actually, I came from New Zealand, where I lived for the last decade and nearly decade and a half. Actually, I did all my studies there. My background in the special area has been education and counseling. And last year, I was able to secure a scholarship here at Victoria University, where I'm doing my PhD at the moment. And my area that I'm looking at is actually in family, investigating experience and challenges of the family that come from different cultures. So, for example, you come with your own way and practice of parenting. But when you come from a new country, how do you overcome that actually? There are a lot, and this is one way of overcoming that, because if our children are literate enough to read about our cultures that are documented rather than just passing it verbally, it will remain in their brain forever. They will get used to reading about their cultures and where they come from. And if we don't know our roots, we don't know where we are going. And most of the time, there is this called identity confusion. When you are confused, you don't know your background. And I worked with children for many years in New Zealand when I was working for the Ministry of Education. I found some of the children that end up fighting when they are told, go back to where you come from. They don't know where they came from. So they will resort to fighting. So what I used to do, some of the program was to teach them about their background, where they came from. And when they are told, go back to where you come from, they will be able to tell them, yeah, I came from this and that. Because when you start communicating with someone, they will actually slow down and listen to you. And the moment they slow down, whatever temper that was rising will come down a bit, and you will be able to overcome that challenge. So, for example, I was working with an Ethiopian child whom I teach about Ethiopian and the historical connection that human being actually came from Ethiopia. So this child was able to tell other children that actually you're telling me to go back where I came, your parents might have come from there because Ethiopia is where human being started. So it's because these informations are written. They are there in the papers. My topic that I chose to talk about was to discuss, and okay, there is phone ringing here. The topic to discuss about the importance of writing and why I did some of my writing and continue to do my studies further to the level where I am today. So mostly when I finished before I finished my master degree back in New Zealand, I started publishing in 2006, where I published my first articles, and it was mostly to do with my own life, but actually I connect the dots with how other children are suffering around the world, because, for example, I left home when I was very young to Ethiopia in the 80s, and came back to South Sudan, then to Kenya before I went to New Zealand. And here I am today in Australia, so I don't know where I'm going to be heading next. So a lot of young people always have to journey to different part of the world because they've been exposed to those wars and so many other extreme circumstances that push them out. And by the way, when my time is finished, just tell me to stop. So I published a number of articles, book chapters, and a book as well. As Peter mentioned before independence of South Sudan, we published a book to just really look at the development of South Sudan, and we decided to publish a book that we could give to the government of South Sudan to use those ideas. And the areas that we cover were very much education, health, governance, you name it, all of them actually. We just touched base on everything, and we presented to the president in 2011 immediately after independence. So we hope they will utilize those ideas to help, because sometimes as writers, we are quite opportunistic, because what we normally do, you can read a lot about what others has written, and you will find a gap that you want to fulfill. Also, when we are making claims, you have to make reference to what others might have said before, and that really help people to understand that that has been said. Or you may point out and say, well, these people, they've been saying this and that, but they didn't actually went through this and talk deep about this issue. Like, for example, the area that I'm investigating, I believe there has been a huge gap in terms of really investigating the parenting practice and challenges that are affecting, I'm actually investigating South Sudanese. There has been nothing much research done in terms of finding out how people are experiencing these changes within the family in terms of coming to another where different cultures meet, and when they meet, there is always friction. And that friction can be overcome only if there are strategies put in place to help alleviate that situation. Sometimes it is the responsibility of the community to make sure that they work hard to overcome those issues. I realize that in some of the houses, parents and children speak English only because they're not able to speak. Children are not able to speak their mother tongue. And we expect them to hold on to culture. How do you expect them to hold on to your culture if they can't speak your language? This is a real challenge. So I'm going to be looking and investigating the in-depth experience and the challenges, and even looking at what can be preserved from our culture so that it can be used here to help parents to be able to advance the parenting sort of work, and look at what can be changed. So when I look at the literature, and the program that are in place, sometimes we know that when you come to a new country, you are given information about what the law said in that country. Parents are told, physical disciplining is not allowed here, but sometimes we fall short of what are the substitute then, because physical disciplining is not allowed. And as it was said before, and has been in the literature for a while as well. I published a lot in those areas because I was running positive parenting program in New Zealand funded by the government. Is the fact that we have to be close to our children. You have to be friends with them. Let's face it, you don't have any option, you are here. And you cannot change that fact. So it's always about finding strategies, but those strategies are up to the community and the society to help people overcome them. I found that in the literature there were no strategies put in place for education, for educating parents to be able to understand this difference of, that you cannot parent in the way that you used to be. There are very good things that we can preserve in our culture. We know that physical disciplining is not allowed, which was not good even in that society where we come from. When you hurt your child, always other members of the family get involved, and they can even take that child away. So the same, but here what we have is a substitute of the state. The state become kind of extended parent that will come and intervene in the family, which is unknown for in our society. The state doesn't involve so much in the family affairs. And that is where you find a lot of parents getting depressed. And what I'm looking at, I'm going to be looking at in the next few weeks, maybe try something, because between last week and this week, there were 2 women who committed suicide from South Sudanese community in Victoria here. And all the issues are connected with parenting. Their children are taken by the state. So how do we overcome this issue? It's the debate that we should be debating as a community, as people who are affected by this. And those may be just the samples of what is happening, because a lot of people might be depressed, may might have been traumatized, and they're not showing it, we don't know about them. So all of this are happening most of the time. So the question is, why do I like to write and put out all of these issues? I believe back at home, what we used to do, we used to pass the stories and our background from generation to another. And we know that when we're passing verbal information, it can be misinterpreted. Some of the information may be left out. For us, there is no excuse, because we know how to write. We have to put it in writing. I was telling Peter last time that we have so many stories that we can document. Like, for example, back home where I come from, there is this guy called Cholmong. He has a lot of fairy tales that are very interesting. They can excite children. They can really make them feel good about their culture. The culture is not only about just saying to your child that I want you to be to behave in a way that our culture is. No, it's actually educational. You have to go around and teach them in a different way so that you can reach to that end, to achieve whatever the objective that you want to achieve. So I can see the MC standing next to me. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but all I can say that writing and putting it in writing is very, very important, and we really need to encourage our people to read and put their ideas together. If you can't able to put them together in English, ask for help. So there are a lot of people who can write, and particularly when I'm transcribing what somebody else has written, it actually quite easy for me than just to sit down and brainstorm on my own ideas. So we can always help each other. You come with your ideas and someone can, write them down for you, tape record and transcribe them. That's how it is. And we will be able to achieve a lot. So because of time, I will leave some of the things that I was going to talk about, but just let's promote this program and support these people who came up with these ideas. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Santino. As a young generation, we shall learn from writers like you and the rest of the writers. Several men have been talking since, and I think we are going to balance it. And they say that God could not be everywhere if not because of the mother. So this time I'm going to welcome Mama Yendit. Mama, I got leg. Sorry for that. You're welcome.
But now I ended a live for Katinian Balele Katina Miadapio. Wait a later, it will call you with it in it. When is I'm Jagaloy, my uncle Ladi. Did you wear it in a Piet and Miadapio? Nine and Key, we are Piet Miti, Kwana, when I shall baptize. Bigger merit and I shall take a thing. Kijara lawyer kule akira kwa lawyer tida mini ban Australia 2005 akira lawyer ku kajira ka ke ga talim tupul ke ga nyon na de grane gat fa kijol bran gat bo ki man jena bo gor de na ga chu ka ting e yana kre me de bio ku yana ke ye yin ne ar inu be mandu begar na ji gar ke non in thoi na ma be din nyon ko ko be ngi ki man ne ko che bo ko gor e ka pia dari Fakene, Alabania, Rida, Atawa, Mitio, who got Piet, Bukumiko, Bukasha, I can be named Bokwanga, Africa, Jiman, Jenica Gordon, Ekermia de Piofa, Anya Quarry, Bia, Beraloy, Pulu, Wicked Bia Loy, way in and one. Bago quite you get here up a bear, doping, because bear, dooping, appeared Bukalanian, I go me for big pew. Which you could bear the cherry. We have a baby, a band in Kiraloid and I can't tell him. I call me up to Bilala University, by the University of Baloy, in Jata, Kabawiri, Bagwir University. For a year, God, I can Bapa and Muel, Bamuloy, I got big God could be. He ran a penny in man and here to Enum. For Akena and Yarit, Kene, I can't be a mere read who call you cut, I have a layer, it called your pocket god, I have a lake who poke at top and can Quentin and I, you went and get in the channel, who call you go up, who cake a yinga, Rantum Japin in every grand and Japin, who call you Japin, Japin and Lillan on the Arcaro chicken. Who dear the Zatu, I dare cock you wash a jaw, to talk at in it, Kaji wash a jaw, a year and his. Irani ki sukul ko gori dia ra ya le ja ga man ki wodi ab gara na di na sukul che ran ki gar kara na bna ki di dan bi ya gore ya den kene pa sha jaw fa kene a ja ne ra re dan an ki bi ja ma re kana to ran ja la yendi da bi ra di la ban jam ko ne ran ban jam ni ni ku we ja le ja re ko ki bu re tene ku ko ga dia ka bu ban ku ka pi da re ki mi ko go le tene e ke mi ra pio pan jo Australia ji wo pio ja re ben ki ka walwa rahbo papiat benang ki ya bia nyuat ti man ki ro lo e kole bia nyuat ka Australia bi ngi aden enu ekre mi ade pio ki mi ko lo ede ku kali be ka me pio de aden fa ke Arabic or English but I don't know English.
Thank you very much, Mama Kante, for your words of encouragement. So I just wanna, somebody has misplaced their phone here. So if you know you've misplaced, okay, all right. So I'll give it to you later. The next opportunity that I'm going to give people now is an opportunity to ask questions. Maybe if you have anything that you want to ask, maybe Santino or our honorable guest here, maybe you want to ask them anything. It's an opportunity for questions now. So
my question is to Santino. Being a person from a refugee background, and you are leaving a legacy of work, what is your advice to us young people pursuing the ambitions?
You mean in terms of academically? Okay. Well, what I didn't mention before, I went through very tough education because we know that when you are in the bush, or when we went to Ethiopia, there was no good education. I actually started school when I was very young because my dad was a headmaster in different schools back home. But the education was banned down during the war, so education had to stop all the sudden. I didn't go to kindy or anything, primary school. When we were studying even in Kenya, because I was supposed to finish my secondary school in 2000, the year that I left, there were no good teachers. We don't have books. We used to line up for one encyclopedia to read and be able to sit the exam. So there were a lot of challenges. I went to New Zealand, same thing, because the first thing that I heard was, your English is quite old, you have to use plain English. So with the first challenge, and English being the second language, or third language rather, was another challenge. Because always we have to put it in our own context. If you're thinking in, like for example in Dinka, my mother tongue, and then I have to put it in English, it's a real challenge. So I think the only thing that we can say about young people is, you have the opportunities. Because when you are still young, your brain can still learn the new language, because the older we become, the harder it is to learn another language. But if you are young and determination, conviction, commitment, and saying that I'm going to do it no matter what, because nothing is impossible in this world, always ask for help, because sometimes it's our challenge. We are so full of pride sometimes. We don't want to ask others because they will overlook us, or they will say that we are stupid. That is not the case. No matter how young or whatever they are, and you want to know something, ask for it. If you ask, you will be surprised. You will learn something new. And even like for us, those who are doing PhD, it's always about more discussion about our topic. That what helped shape it even more. We understood it more after you talk more about it. So it's always about commitment. It's always about interacting with others. It's always about asking. So.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
And also the problem they face systemically. And also do the same thing with the parents. And also look at the way the system itself treats the immigrant families. So I'd like to see how you deal with all these triangular issues. Thanks.
That's a very good question. I think we interacted some time back, and I really admire your writing. I think when we're looking at the issue, we need to address it holistically. And my first challenge when I was doing a literature review, we have commonalities in culture and the way of parenting practice and all of those kind of stuff. But sometimes we have variations that are so little that people don't know about. So you have to address the issue holistically and in depth. So most of the research that I came across about family and parenting has been very shallow. It doesn't investigate, like for example, my research actually is investigating parents. I will be asking a lot of questions from parent perspective. I want to know from them what are their experience. Being a parent from another culture here, how are you experiencing it? How are you overcoming these challenges? And actually, what can be preserved from your practice and what you need to change so that you can fit into the new society? We use the word integration because assimilation is not the right word, because assimilation is when you forget about your culture and assimilate to the new culture. It doesn't help because, again, you lost your root, and the more you lost your root, the more you're not able to integrate well into the new society. And we know that Australia and New Zealand, like other Western countries, they encourage you to preserve your culture. And preserving it means we have to preserve what is good, what can work here. So I'm going to be interviewing parents. Also, I'm going to be interviewing young people from 16 onward to a certain level. So what I want to know from them is they might have grown up here, they came as very young or teenagers. And now, what was their experience? Because we know that there are two different cultures at home. They have this parent who want them to hold on to their culture, but when they go to the schools, they also need to learn something else. They have to interact with other cultures, and also they will listen to other children. And again, they will compare and contrast how their parents are treating them at home and how these children are being treated that way. They will ask questions like, why am I treated differently? This is the dilemma that parent has to reflect on. You know, most of the time, sometimes when we don't talk about these issues, we don't know what children are going through. One of the projects that I did in New Zealand was called Let's Talk. And what I did was to bring the parent together and young people, and we let them talk, and I was ascribing. The young people, we asked them to outline what are the problems, what are the issues with their parents, why are they not listening? We ascribe the issues, and then we ask parents, what are your concerns? Like, for example, the concern that they don't want them to go to parties at night, and they are fearful that they're going to be killed or whatever is happening to them. And children also were saying that you are so restrictive, you are not even giving us a chance to talk, you just want us to do what you want us to do. And then after we came together, parents were able to say, well, we didn't know that that was affecting you. Children also were able to say, well, we didn't know that you were caring actually. That's why you want us not to go out at night. So sometimes it's always about communicating. So what I'm going to be looking up out of this is the dialect. I want to know, and I will be making some recommendation at the end of my thesis, which I will intending to turn into a book in combination with my other written material in the past that I published. So I hope I answered most part of your question. I'm sorry that I'm taking long.
All right, thank you very much. All right.
My name is Peter. I work with Australia Red Cross. And my question is going direct to Santino. I'm a father, and I feel when you talk, I was touched by some point. But what I realized as a part of the community, in our culture, you know, we don't celebrate our birthday. But when our kids go to school, and then we don't do for them at home, and then the other kids talk about it, is it a part of the issue with the kid?
Well, thanks for that question. I'm going to make my answers brief because of time. But what I found quite fascinating about this is that sometimes communication is the most important thing of all. I found some children, let me just put it in another perspective. I found some parents talking about, because these difficulties that we are talking about are not only children or parents, they are for all of them. I found some parents that are talking about being blackmailed by their parents, by their children, because children will tell them that if you don't give me this and that, I will inform the welfare service or social workers that you are abusing me. And, and because they have that language ability, they can be heard more, especially this is worse for parents that cannot speak the language. And I work across the board with a lot of parents that are going through very bad experience because back in our culture, no parent will hurt his or her child. This is something that we know. But sometimes when they end up being accused of hurting or abusing their children, they really become very traumatized. And some of the parents imagine that they struggle so much to bring their children out of that war to here. How do you expect me to struggle to bring them here? If I don't want them, I would have just murdered them there instead of bringing them to Australia. What I'm looking for is the future, good future for them. And some parents, they invest so much in their children that they lost most part of their education and life Now they want their children to succeed for the future. So that expectation and hope, when it diminishes, it becomes a problem. So when it comes to children going to school and find other children having very good materials and stuff, they will come home and start disturbing the parent. I want something like what other children is having, all about communicating. Tell them the background, where you come from, the difficulty that you have as a parent, because those parents who are giving this flashy stuff to their children, they might have good, good education, they might have good resources, they might have a lot of assets that has been left by their previous parents and grandparents, and you are new here. How will you get all of this at once? It takes time to be able to get the job and establish yourself and be able to generate that kind of income. So what I found, what I did in New Zealand was to let parents communicate this to their children. Because the more you talk to them, reminding them the difficulty that you have, the more it becomes easy for them to convince them that, please, you may compare yourself. You want to be like other children, but we don't have this much to afford that. So material things are not important sometimes, but if you have a good future, you will be able to achieve those that you need in life. So it's always about communication, and thank you.